This is going to blow your mind. The tale of Culhwch and Olwen is one of the earliest and most captivating legends in the Mabinogion. Hear ye, gather close and listen to the tales of old. Tales spun from mist and moonlight, from the very heart of Prydain. Amidst the revelry a hush fell. A shadow passed over the threshold, a figure shrouded in grey. The seer spoke. A son shall be born to this house, a son of destiny. His life, intertwined with the threads of fate, shall be a tapestry of trials and triumphs. Years passed, and Queen Goludyd gave birth to a son, Culhwch. He grew, nurtured by love, but the shadow of the prophecy lingered. On the eve of Culhwch's 16th birthday, a shadow fell upon the kingdom, and the beloved queen fell ill. As the queen lay on her deathbed, she summoned her son. "You are fated, my son, to marry only Olwen, daughter of the giant Isbadadden." Culhwch swore upon his mother's grave to fulfill her dying wish and break the curse. Grief hung heavy in the halls of King Dogyd's castle. Culhwch, lost in sorrow, wandered the corridors, the curse a deafening roar. But a flicker of defiance ignited within him. He would seek the light beyond the darkness. Driven by resolve, Culhwch sought out his uncle, King Arthur. The journey to Arthur's court was long and arduous, but Culhwch rode with determination. Finally, he arrived at Camelot, a place where reality blurred with myth and legend. The gates swung open, and Culhwch entered the grand hall of Camelot. Approaching the throne, Culhwch knelt and recounted his tale. Arthur listened intently, and a heavy silence descended upon the hall. A hush fell over the court as King Arthur weighed Culhwch's plea. "Yours is a perilous quest, fraught with dangers," Arthur declared. "I, Arthur, swear by the honour of my knights, you shall have your quest." Arthur continued, "To defeat Isbadadden you will need more than courage." Heroes heeded Arthur's summons, each bringing unique skills and legends. A tapestry of heroes was woven, ready to face the trials ahead. With a company of heroes assembled, Culhwch prepared to depart. Arthur offered words of wisdom. "May the light of the other world guide your path." With a thunder of hooves, Culhwch and his companions rode out of Camelot into the heart of Prydain. Their journey was not without its challenges. They faced storms that shook the heavens, crossed treacherous ravines, and navigated ancient forests. But Culhwch's resolve never wavered. He faced despair, stared at mortality, and emerged with newfound appreciation for life. Word reached them of their first trial, a monstrous creature terrorizing a village. The villagers, etched with fear, spoke of the creature's impenetrable hide, its teeth sharper than any sword, and its roar capable of shattering stone. Culhwch, filled with compassion, knew this was a test of courage. He gathered his companions, their faces illuminated by the campfire, and said, "Our journey has just begun, but already we must prove our mettle. We will face this beast not for glory, but to protect the innocent. Even in darkness, hope remains." His words echoed in the night, met with a roar of approval. The heroes, ignited by conviction, prepared to face the creature, their hearts filled with determination. After weeks of perilous travel, the landscape grew increasingly stark. Gone were the rolling green hills and verdant forests of Arthur's domain, replaced by a desolate expanse of jagged peaks and shadowed valleys. The air, once alive with the songs of birds and the rustling of leaves, grew still and heavy, as if the very land held its breath. The companions rode in tense silence, their eyes scanning the horizon, their hands never straying far from their weapons. Even Kai, whose booming laughter usually echoed through the ranks, fell silent, his brow furrowed in concentration as he scanned their surroundings. A palpable sense of dread settled over the group, a premonition of the trials that awaited them. Finally, they reached it. Looming before them, atop a craggy precipice, stood the fortress of Isbaddaden. More a mountain than a castle, its massive walls, hewn from black volcanic rock, seemed to claw at the sky, defying the very heavens. The gates, fashioned from the bones of some long-forgotten beast, stood agape, a gaping maw leading into the heart of darkness. Culhwch, his gaze fixed on the imposing structure, felt a shiver run down his spine. This was the lair of Isbaddaden, the embodiment of his darkest fears, the guardian of his destiny. He had faced monstrous creatures and treacherous landscapes on his journey, but this was different. This was where heroes went to die, where legends were shattered, where hope itself seemed to wither and fade. With a deep breath, Culhwch urged his steed forward, his companions flanking him, their expressions grim but resolute. They rode through the open gates, the sound of their horses' hooves echoing eerily in the unnatural silence. The air within the fortress was heavy with a cloying metallic scent, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to throb with a malevolent energy. They found Isbaddaden seated upon a throne of skulls, his massive frame dwarfing even the monstrous furniture that surrounded him. His eyes, two burning coals in the darkness, followed their every move, and his gnarled hands, each finger tipped with a claw sharper than any sword, gripped the arms of his throne. Culhwch, refusing to be cowed by the giant's imposing presence, stepped forward. "Isbaddaden," he declared, his voice echoing in the cavernous hall, "I have come for Olwen, your daughter. My mother, Queen Golyudid, decreed it on her deathbed, and I am bound by honor to fulfill her dying wish." A low growl emanated from Isbaddaden, shaking the very foundations of the fortress. "Many have sought my daughter's hand," he rumbled, his voice like grinding stones, "but none have lived to tell the tale. You are but a whelp, a mere mortal, daring to challenge a power beyond your comprehension." He gestured with a clawed hand, and a grotesque, hunched figure emerged from the shadows, carrying a massive scroll bound in chains. "Within this parchment," Isbaddaden continued, his lips curling into a cruel smile, "are inscribed the tasks you must complete to prove yourself worthy of Olwen. Fail even one, and your bones will join the others that litter my halls." Culhwch, his heart pounding, accepted the scroll from the grotesque creature. The parchment was cold and slick against his fingers. As he unfurled the scroll, a wave of nausea washed over him. The tasks, scrawled in a language ancient and malevolent, seemed to writhe before his eyes. "Read them aloud, mortal," boomed Isbaddaden, his voice dripping with malicious glee. "Let the weight of your impending doom crush your spirits." Culhwch, steeling his nerve, began to read. "First, you must bring me the sword of Dernwyn, forged in the heart of a dying star. Only with this blade can you hope to shave my beard." A collective gasp arose from the companions. The sword of Dernwyn was the stuff of legend. Its whereabouts had been a mystery for centuries. To retrieve it would require journeying to the farthest corners of the otherworld. "Silence!" roared Isbaddaden, slamming his fist against the arm of his throne. The hall fell silent once more, the only sound the beating of hearts heavy with dread. "That is but the first of many trials, mortal. Despair. For even with the combined might of Arthur's court you will never succeed. Your quest is doomed to fail." The weight of Isbaddaden's words hung in the air, heavy as a thundercloud. The heroes, their faces etched with a mixture of apprehension and resolve, exchanged uneasy glances. The task before them, to retrieve the legendary sword of Dernwyn, seemed insurmountable. A fool's errand dreamt up by a malevolent giant. Yet to turn back now to admit defeat before even lifting a sword was unthinkable. "Dernwyn?" murmured Kai, his booming voice subdued for once. "The very name sends shivers down my spine. They say the sword burns with an unquenchable thirst for blood, that it can cleave a man in two with a single stroke." He shook his head, his usually jovial face creased with worry. If the tales are true, even finding it would be a death sentence, let alone wielding it. "The tales also say," interjected Bedwyr, his voice calm and measured, a counterpoint to Kai's bluster, "that Dyrnwyn chooses its wielder, that only a true hero, his heart pure, his spirit unbroken, can hope to control its power." He turned to Culhwch, his gaze steady. "Your quest, though daunting, is not impossible. You have faced despair and emerged stronger, faced your fears and found your resolve. You may be the one destined to wield Dyrnwyn, to break the curse that binds you." Culhwch, his gaze fixed on the scroll, felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Bedwyr's words, spoken with such quiet conviction, resonated deep within his soul. He had come too far, endured too much to surrender to despair now. He would find Dyrnwyn, even if it meant journeying to the very edge of existence itself. Their search for Dyrnwyn led them through treacherous mountains, across windswept plains, and deep into ancient forests where sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy. They consulted with wise hermits, their faces etched with the wisdom of ages, and sought guidance from mystical creatures, their voices like whispers on the wind. Each encounter brought them closer to their goal. Each challenge tested their mettle, their bonds of friendship forged in the crucible of shared danger. Finally, after weeks of relentless pursuit, they arrived at the edge of a sacred grove, a place where the air crackled with an ancient, unseen power. The trees, gnarled and twisted with age, seemed to reach out with skeletal fingers, their leaves whispering secrets in a language only they understood. A sense of foreboding settled over the group, a primal fear that tugged at the edges of their courage. "This is it," whispered Gwalchmai, his bow held at the ready, his keen eyes scanning the shadows. "I can feel it in my bones. Dyrnwyn lies at the heart of this grove, guarded by forces even we cannot comprehend." As if summoned by his words, a low growl echoed through the trees, a sound that sent shivers down their spines. A monstrous wolf-like creature, its fur the colour of midnight, its eyes burning with an eerie green light, emerged from the undergrowth, its teeth bared in a silent snarl. This was no ordinary beast, but a guardian, a protector of the sacred grove, and it did not take kindly to intruders. The creature lunged, its massive jaws snapping shut just inches from Kai's face. The heroes, their reflexes honed by countless battles, sprang into action. Swords flashed, arrows sang through the air, and the silence of the grove erupted in a cacophony of clashing steel and guttural roars. The battle raged, a whirlwind of fury and desperation. The creature, its strength seemingly limitless, fought with a primal ferocity that tested the heroes to their very limits. One by one, they fell back, wounded and exhausted, their hope dwindling with each passing moment. Only Culhwch, his gaze fixed on the heart of the grove, refused to yield. He felt a surge of energy coursing through his veins, a power ancient and untamed, guiding his movements, lending strength to his arm. He fought with a ferocity he had never known, his sword a blur of motion as he parried the creature's attacks, his heart pounding in his chest like a war drum. And then, as quickly as it had begun, the battle was over. With a final desperate lunge, Culhwch drove his sword deep into the creature's chest, silencing its roars forever. The creature collapsed, its body dissolving into motes of light that swirled around Culhwch, bathing him in an ethereal glow. He stood there, panting, his sword dripping with the creature's blood, as the echoes of the battle faded into the stillness of the grove. Silence descended upon the grove, heavy and profound. The air, thick with the scent of ozone and magic, crackled around Culhwch. Motes of light formed a shimmering path towards the heart of the grove. He knew his trial was not yet over. Destiny awaited him. He sheathed his sword and followed the path. The trees parted, revealing a clearing bathed in soft light. There, on a moss-covered altar, lay Dyrnwyn, pulsing with life. Culhwch approached, his heart pounding, hand hovering over the hilt. As his fingers brushed the metal, a jolt of energy surged through him. He grasped the hilt and drew the blade. The clearing erupted in light, a wave of power washing over Culhwch. Word of Culhwch's triumph spread like wildfire through his companions. They had faced countless perils, yet their spirits remained unbroken. Armed with Dyrnwyn, Culhwch and his companions returned to Ysbyddaden's fortress. The giant, in disbelief and rage, watched as Culhwch fulfilled the remaining tasks. The day of the wedding arrived, bright and auspicious. Culhwch, hand in hand with Olwen, looked upon the woman of his dreams. The curse was broken. Ysbyddaden, defeated by the spirit of a young hero, was vanquished. As Culhwch gazed upon his bride, he knew their love story was just beginning.